There we go. So welcome to class, everybody. And for those of you just joining us in the video, welcome to class as well. Really quickly, before we get going, I'm going to do a quick introduction about myself. My name is Ryan Hopson. I am a teacher here with Manhattan Prep. I've been teaching for well over 10 years in various roles. I've taught everything from science to kindergartners, which is still probably my favorite job ever, to ESL for adults and just about everything in between. I love working with test prep in particular because I'm not the biggest fan of standardized tests, and I don't believe that they should ever stand between a student and what they want to do with their lives. So I really look forward to helping you guys get a few extra points on the GRE here and helping you, hopefully, to get over that hurdle. Looks like somebody grabbed the video. I'm just going to go ahead and switch that off. No need to hop on video, guys. Clicking the video button doesn't turn on video of your instructor. It turns on video of yourselves. Just please be aware. So, before we go any further, I'd like to know a little bit more about you all as well. Now, I see that most of you have figured out how to pull in that green check mark. I'm going to ask you to do something different now. I'm going to ask for everyone to please go ahead and pull in the letter D. The polling buttons are up above everybody's name. Just paste that up on the screen so you all can see it. You pull in by clicking on this little square here and then selecting the letter that you want to choose. All right, cool. It's just about everybody. Yeah, it's very just about everybody. Nicely done. I'm glad everybody found that. Okay, now here's what I'm interested in. If you have taken the GRE once before, the real test, then I want you to go ahead and change your letter to the letter A. Taking the real test, go ahead and change your letter to the letter A. Okay, only a handful of you, it looks like. If you've taken a practice, now if you've already changed your letter, leave it alone. But if you're still pulled in for the letter D and you've taken a practice test before, please go ahead and change it to the letter B, as in boy. Let me know if you've taken at least a practice test. Okay, cool. If you've taken a class before, whether it was the full Manhattan Prep course or whether it was one of these free sessions before, and you have not yet changed your answer, please go ahead and pull in the letter C. Okay, cool. So we've got a pretty wide range of experience here in class tonight. Some of you may still have done some more studying that wasn't one of the categories that I've mentioned. A few of you have taken classes before. That's fantastic. Anybody who's done one of these free prep hours with me before? If so, just give me a quick +1 in the chat there. I know Brandon has. Anybody else? Nice. Okay, a couple repeat customers here. Fantastic. I'm really glad to see you all back again. We will be referencing some previous sessions here tonight. You don't have to have attended any of the previous ones, but we will be covering some new ground. So, by the way, before I get into some the actual problems and what we're actually going to be working on here tonight, I just want to call out the source of the problems we'll be doing tonight. It's the Manhattan Prep 5-pound book of GRE problems. If you're not familiar, it is exactly what it sounds like. It is literally a book of nothing but GRE problems and explanations, and it is a 5-pound massive tome of knowledge. It is our only book to crack the Amazon Top 100 book list. Students love this one. It's a really great resource. Hey, good, Brandon. I'm glad you like that one. It's one that we will reference a lot during classes, and it's where all of our problems tonight will be coming from. Fantastic. Glad to see. We'll see if you guys have seen some of these problems that I'm going to be referencing. If so, the only thing that I would ask you is, hey, please, no spoilers for the rest of the class. So before I talk to you about what I want to talk to you about here tonight, before we get into kind of the meat of it, I want to go ahead and just turn you loose on a few problems. I just want to give you a kind of a warm-up here to try a few things out. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes on the clock. No need to send me your answers. I don't want to know what you got for this one. What I want is for you all to take a shot at this and just record your answer on your scratch paper. 2 minutes on the clock. Here we go. Time's almost up. When you think you have your answer, please go ahead and pull it in. Please go ahead and pull it in. All right, great. Looks like a lot of people got to an answer for this one, and that's fantastic to see. Please, if you haven't done so yet, make a note of your answer. Write it on your scratch paper, write it in your notes. We're going to come back to this problem in a minute. I want to make sure that you remember how you answered this one. I've got one more that I'd like you to try as well. Take a shot at this one. Again, I'm going to give you 2 minutes on the clock. Same drill. When you think you have an answer, please go ahead and send it over to me by polling it in. All right, that's time. I'm going to go ahead and set that chat back to public. Please don't send me your answers in the chat. No spoilers. Interestingly, this one, there was a lot more consistency. With this one in particular, it seemed like people either got it right or not at all. With this first problem, there was a whole lot more variability in the answers that folks gave me. All right. Tell me in the chat, out of curiosity, what was your first strategy for this problem right here? How did you try to solve it? And I don't need a whole lot of detail. I mean, I don't want the process you went through. I'm just talking about the strategy or the technique that you tried to use. Okay, so doing some algebra, doing some arithmetic. Give me a quick +1 if that's how you tried to solve this thing. Some algebra or some arithmetic. Just about everybody. Okay, fantastic. I love to see that. I think that's a very logical way to go about approaching this problem. And an interesting thing to note is that the test makers very similarly know that that's how you're probably going to go about approaching this problem. And one of the tricks that they have in their book is that they are able to kind of, I don't want to say use that against you, but to plan for that, to expect that that's going to be the way you try to solve this problem. So what I want to talk about here this evening is why your first strategy shouldn't be your only strategy. I always want you guys to have a backup kind of in your back pocket for problems like these, where the math really isn't that hard. Just sometimes it's all about attacking it from a different angle. We're going to talk a little bit about specifically how to do that with problems like the ones that we just looked at. It's going to come down to an idea that I like to call when in doubt, just use what they give you. And then we'll actually go back to some of those problems again and we'll try it out. So tell me, is there anybody out there that can finish this quote? Everybody has a plan. You're close, Max. You're on the right track. It's actually a little bit more violent than that. Let me give you a little hint here. The man behind the quote is Mike Tyson. It's one of my favorites. I'm actually surprised that more people don't know this one. Everyone has a plan. There it is, until they get punched in the mouth. A little bit violent, but true nonetheless. And so what I want to talk about here this evening is what to do when the test makers send a punch your way and how to kind of roll with that. There are a few scrappy strategies that I've gone over in these prep hours so far. I did a session on picking for Vic, which is an idea that we can pick for variables and choices. I did a session on the idea that we can cheat off of B in quantitative comparisons when the test makers give us a number for quantity B. And tonight I want to talk about the idea of back solving. Any of you who were in my classes for points 1 or 2 here, or anybody who has watched those videos on YouTube? Well, these aren't the strategies I want to focus on here tonight, but I thought I'd give you all a quick introduction into how they work. So really quickly, and by the way, it looks like we're having some connection problems. I'm sorry, I saw a bunch of students just got kicked. I hope that they're able to reconnect here. So really quickly, I want to talk about this problem here. Tell me, I don't want you to solve it. I don't want you to actually go ahead and do this one yet. But take a look at this one and tell me, what do you think is going to make this problem tough? Yeah, I'm getting great answers in the chat here. The number of variables, the time it takes to solve, and my favorite, the real reason that I see students get this problem wrong is those little tiny mistakes. There's so many opportunities when you're doing that algebra to make little tiny mistakes. So I realized that nobody said that they were in that class, nobody's seen the video yet, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here. But we've got this strategy, pick for Vic, which is what we do when we have a problem that has variables in the choices. In this case, I might say that let's let x be equal to 1, in which case now I've got -1 squared plus 0 squared plus 1 squared plus 2 squared plus 3 squared. So that's going to be 1 plus 0 plus 1 plus 4 plus 9. You guys with me? Literally all I've done here is I've taken and I've plugged 1 in wherever there was an x. Give me a quick +1 if you're on board. Question mark if you got questions about what we've done so far. Clean up my board work here to make this a little bit more clear. Okay, fantastic. Now, VIC stands for variables in choices. And you can see here in our answer choices, we don't just have numbers or values. We actually have X down here in the choices. Good question, Brenna. That makes sense? Cool. Now we're told that this quantity is supposed to be equal to the answer choice that's correct, which means if I plug 1 up here and it spits out 15, if I plug 1 into these answer choices, the right one is also going to spit out 15. Really quickly, try it out. Go ahead and just plug in 1 into these answer choices, and when you think you found the one that works, go ahead and pull it in. Oh, some people were real quick on this one. Folks sending it to me in the chat. Yeah, you're absolutely correct, Joe and Paolo and Amy, but be careful, please, no spoilers. Yes, absolutely, it's going to be answer choice B. And look how much easier that is. Paula, excuse me, I'm sorry I said your name wrong there. Did you try it this way, or did you do the algebra when you did this one earlier today? Oh, a couple people familiar with this problem. How much easier is this method? And here, exactly. When we do the GRE, we're not just about getting these problems right. The GRE is a marathon. So yes, we're about getting these problems right, but we are also about getting them right as efficiently as possible. There's no need to waste that mental energy doing all that complicated arithmetic, especially when there's or algebra rather, especially when there's a chance of making a silly error with the signs or something simple like that. Instead, why not do this and solve it as efficiently as possible? I wish I could take credit for it there, idea. It's not my idea, but I do love it. I think it's a great way to do it. Oh, Joe, that's a great question. Yeah, a couple of you asking that. No, I wouldn't always pick number one. In this particular case, it's a good number to pick because it's going to do things that are easy. Occasionally, what can happen is if you get unlucky and you pick a number that just happens to work for more than one answer choice, sometimes you might have to pick again. For example, if we had picked 0, if we pick 0, this value up here is going to work out to be 10. Unfortunately, when I try plugging 0 in, every single one of these would also work out to be 10. So you have to be a little strategic, and that's something that I talk about more in that full course about this. Good question. All right, cool. So very brief introduction. If you guys are on board for that, give me a quick +1 in the chat there. Ooh, somebody's taking the class or read the books. I like that. Max, I wouldn't necessarily go with Zone F for these. Zone F is more about finding a weird case to pick. In this one, we're really just trying to find an easy number to pick. Good question. And if you guys aren't familiar with that concept of Zone F, that's something we talk about in the full course, and it's something I'd be happy to share with you here at the end of class. Now, wait. I don't want to get too bogged down in this one. Amy, hit me with your quick question, but then we got to move on because I want to get to some other material here. Quite a few of them. There's always going to be examples of problems where it doesn't work. Like with the strategy that we're going to learn tonight, I'm going to show you specifically an example where it doesn't work out great. But the thing to look for, the thing that's like your signpost to say, hey, maybe this will work, is a variable in the answer choice, and also something that I can plug a value into. Make sense? And Michael, it'll work for 2 variables as well, absolutely. Yep, you could pick an X and a Y. You may just have to be a little bit more careful about what you're picking there. Yeah, I think it's more likely that you'll get a scenario where more than one answer choice works. You have to test another number or another pair of numbers. Okay, cool. Amy, you on board for this? I see you typing there. Did you have a follow-up question? Okay, awesome. Okay. The other one that I wanted to talk about really quickly, our other Scrappy strategy here, is the idea that we can cheat off of B. You can see I've added something to the problem on the screen here to make it slightly different than the version in the book, just so the strategy is a little bit more effective for this problem. The idea of cheating off of B is very similar to the strategy I'm going to focus on here tonight. The idea of cheating off of B is, in these quantitative comparisons, when the test makers give you a value for quantity B, there's usually a reason why. They don't just pick those numbers randomly. So, what we can do is to actually take quantity B and say, what if I just cheat off of B and plug it in? In this particular case, I would end up with 16 over 28. Somebody reduce that for me. And I'd also end up with 28 over 49. Very good. Somebody else reduce the second one for me. Nicely done, Athir. Excellent, Amy. Nicely done. Yes. So in this case, we've shown that it works. We were told that these two ratios were supposed to be equal. Sure enough, that checks out. And so quantity B must be equal to G. And quantity C would be what I'm going with for this problem. Now, what if I had been told that 16 to G, the ratio of 16 to G, was equal to the ratio of G to something different. Let's say, for example, 48. Now, would these two quantities have been equal anymore? Would this problem still check out? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Now, this one would be a little too big, and this one would be a little too small. Oh, excuse me, I'm so sorry, guys. I just said that backwards. If this was 28 over 48, this one would be a little too big and the other one would be a little too small. I'm so sorry. Let me fix that error before I confuse anybody. Okay. So how do I make this ratio smaller? I can't change 48, but what could I do? I'm not looking to reduce here. What I mean is, they're close. I can change G, and this whole quantity was too big. So I don't want to make this one even bigger. Instead, I want to make G smaller. Does that make sense? By making G smaller, I'll make this whole fraction smaller. In other words, let me just do this graphically real quick. I'm sorry, this is getting confusing. If I've got one that was too small and I've got one that was too big, like I do here, in order to make them equal, I need to make this side smaller. And I need to make this side bigger. Give me a quick +1 if you're on board with me there. There we go, okay. So if I choose, so G, the actual value for G must be something smaller. Because by picking something smaller, I'm going to make this side bigger, and I'm going to make this side smaller. So if the real G had to be less than 48, or less than 28, now which answer choice would be correct? B. Yep. The idea that is that if we try 28, it doesn't work. And so the real G must be a little smaller to make this side smaller and this side bigger. It's a complicated idea. If it's something that you're interested in learning more about, like I said, there is a video where we go into more detail about this available on YouTube, or of course, I'm happy to show you some examples after class as well. Give me a quick +1 though if you're on board with me here. Questions if you got them. All right, cool. Seems like most of you are. Fantastic. With both of these strategies that we've talked about, it is not the case that this is the only way to solve these problems. The strategies that I've shown you here are ones, though, that I would want you to know how to use as a backup in case you got stuck, or as a way of solving them more efficiently. So what about this guy? If I didn't want you to do any algebra, if I didn't want you to do arithmetic, if I didn't want you to go and immediately start taking square roots of things, what kind of a scrappy strategy could you use to try to solve this? Yes, Max, I love that idea. Let's look at those answer choices first. That is exactly the idea of back solving. Rather than trying to do all these complicated calculations here, what I'm going to suggest that you guys do is to literally take the answer choices and let's just plug a few of them in and see what happens. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Let's start with answer choice A. Can I take this number 13 and just plug it straight in here? Aha, correct. We cannot plug it straight into this. The reason being, our answer choices are not equal to X. Our answer choices are not equal to X. What are they equal to? Boom. Very important point. Absolutely. X is equal to -1. Okay. Or excuse me, X is, our answer choices are equal to X minus 1. Forgive me for getting tongue-tied there. Okay, so we do 13 is equal to X minus 1, which means X is equal to 14. Those of you who have your calculators handy, really quickly, plug this in and tell me if it works. Be careful though here, we're not squaring 14. We're plugging 14 into this equation now. We've solved for X, and so now we've got to see if it works. There you go. Yep. So we would have X plus 3, the quantity squared, equals 225. That's 17 squared equals 225, and it does not. We can rule that one out. And so answer choice A is out of here. All right, I want to give you guys a chance to try it this way. I'm going to give you another 2 minutes on the clock. I don't think you'll actually need the full 2 minutes. But I'm going to give you 2 minutes on the clock, and I want you to try back solving. And when you have an answer, I want you to go ahead and please pull it in. All right, that's time. I want to talk through this. I'm seeing some great answers coming through from folks here. I love to see that. I do have some people that haven't pulled in an answer yet, and I want to make sure I'm setting the chat to private so this doesn't have to go to everybody. Let me know. Is it because you ran out of time, or is it because you don't understand the strategy? Because those are two very different problems. Or is it because you don't have a calculator? Some folks may just not have come with a calculator here this evening. Okay, it looks like for the most part, it was just that folks ran out of time. Some people are a little confused about the strategy, which is totally fine. We'll do some more examples. But it looks like most people are just a little short on time for this. Okay, I'm going to set that chat back to public now, so please come on back to the main room if you haven't done so yet. Let's just work through this really quickly together. Okay, B. Same thing. I set answer choice B equal to x minus 1. So I'm told that that's what my answers are equal to. Which of the following could be the value of x minus 1? So 12 equals x minus 1. That means x equals 13. I plug that in. I get 13 plus 3 squared, which is 16 squared, equals 225. Without doing the math here altogether, I know that whatever 16 squared is, it's going to end in a 6. If anybody has their calculator handy and wants to do that for us, I'd really appreciate it. But for sure, I know that answer choice B cannot be correct. There we go, 256. Oh, of course, it's the power of 2. I should have known that one. 256 does not equal 225. Very good, okay. Same drill with negative 12 here. I do negative 12 equals x minus 1. I do x equals negative 11. I do negative 11 squared. Is going to be equal to 121, which again is not 225. You guys with me on how this technique works now? Give me a quick +1 if you were confused before, but this makes sense now that you've seen it a few more times. All right, excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay, then super quickly, let's just finish this off. D equals negative 16 equals x minus 1. X equals negative 15. Hey, by the way, I made a mistake. Let me know if anybody catches it. I'm going to finish this off. Very good, Denise. I'm so sorry. I was trying to rush through here. It should have been negative 11 plus 3 squared, which would have been negative 8 squared. Still won't work. It's still not answer choice C, but I apologize. That was my confusion. Okay, same drill here. That's going to be negative 12 squared. Negative 12 squared is 144, which is no good. Last one to test is answer choice E. Negative 19 equals x minus 1. X equals negative 18. Negative 18 plus 3 squared is negative 15 squared is, there it is, 225. Quick +1 if you're on board with me for how we did this, and then I want to talk to you a little bit about the strategy itself. All right, cool. And by the way, somebody had called out to me that the strategy didn't work for them for this problem. Excellent. Glad to see it. Great question, Knowles. I'm actually going to come back to that one in a second, okay? What do you think the problem is with this strategy? Just from watching us do it together here, what would you say is the #1 issue with this one? It takes some time. Absolutely. I'm not going to lie to you guys and pretend like it doesn't. It does take some time. So when would be a good time to employ this strategy? Yeah, exactly. When you're stuck, when you're at the end of a section, you have a little time left to burn. I don't like to use this strategy personally as a first line of defense. This is definitely one that I like to work on as kind of a secondary strategy. Yeah, absolutely. Ooh, and I love that idea, Amy, if you're stuck between a couple of answers. So maybe it's not that you had no idea how to do the problem. Maybe you've been able to rule out a few of them, and you're just deciding between 2 or 3, in which case you don't have to test every answer, so it's going to go a whole lot faster. That's a really good point, Amy. Very good point. Okay, cool. All right. I want to give you you a chance to try this with another problem. I want to come back to that other one that you've seen before, but first things first, I want you guys to take a shot at this with another problem. I am actually going to cover up the top one here for the time being. We'll take a look at that one too. But first things first, I want to turn you loose on the bottom one. Do this however you want. Try it with algebra, try it with back solving, whatever you want to do. But when you think you have the answer, please go ahead and pull it in. This is awesome. Lots and lots and lots of correct answers on this one. I love to see it. Okay. I mean, just about unanimous. Really, really, really strong work here, guys. Excellently done. I'm setting that chat back to public. How many of you gave the back solving method a shot on this one? How effective was it for this problem? I mean, everybody unanimously got this problem right. Like, ooh, and a fear, fantastic. I love that. The idea of using it to verify as well. That goes hand in hand with this idea of using it as a second line strategy. Even if you think you got the problem right and you just want to double check real quick, what a great way to do it. Just go ahead and back solve using the answer that you picked out. Yeah, fantastic. Now, this is one also where I want to go ahead and address that question of what order do we try numbers in. Now, unfortunately, this isn't exactly straightforward. This is not an exact science. I wouldn't go with the extremes first necessarily, Joe. Let me tell you how it works in this one, and then we'll go back and I'll show you one of the other ones, okay? Liza, that's good, but I wouldn't actually recommend that. What I recommend is you start with either B or D. The reason is if you start with C, you've only got a 1 in 5 chance of solving it with a single one. If you start with D or B, you've got a 2 in 5 chance of solving it by trying just one number. And let me show you what I mean here. So let's say I picked answer choice D to start with. I go ahead and I plug that in, and I get 3 times 25 is less than 51. Does that work? Of course not. Of course not. In fact, now we know that we can rule out answer choice D, and what else? Exactly. We've crossed off 2 answer choices here. Yeah, fantastic. So now the next one I would try would be B. And the next time when we try, Brandon, yeah, we do want to solve for both, but if either one of these is not correct, then the whole thing's not correct, right? Because it's got to be and. So if I had tested answer choice D and this worked, then I would have had to test the other one. But since I tested it and it didn't work, I could rule it out. Okay, so now I would go to B and I would try that one. I'd say, oops, by the way, this is supposed to be 51. Sorry guys, I'm not doing a great job of being precise with my math here tonight. I do apologize. So now I would test answer choice B. I would say 3 times 16 is less than 51. That's 48 is less than 51. Man, I'm really not doing so good with my numbers, guys. Sorry. That checks out. That checks out. So now, Brandon, your point is exactly right. We'd have to test the other one as well. I would say 5 times 16. Wow. I have some dyscalculia sometimes, like the math dyslexia, but it's real bad tonight. Sorry, gang. Please keep fact checking me here. I do this one. 5 times 16 is going to be 80. And sure enough, that is greater than 75. And it works. Oops. There we go. Oops. Turn off folks drawing on the screen. Careful there, guys. Okay, so, oh yeah, I'll come back to that, Nikki. Absolutely, it's a really good question. What you would do is you would solve both of these for P and then set it as a system of inequalities. I can show you that in a second here. What if, I want to talk a little bit more about what I was saying earlier about why we don't pick C to start with. What if I had picked D? And the one that I plugged it into actually said, let's see here. So I picked D, that's 3 times 25. What if I had said that it had to be greater than 75? So this is D, 75 is not greater than 75. Clearly that doesn't work. Which answer choice would I pick now? Exactly. Exactly. So even though D didn't work, we would know that it has to be the bigger one, and the only one that would be bigger would be E. And that's why we start with B or D instead of C. Does that make sense? Give me a quick +1 if you're on board there. Now, it's not always that straightforward. For example, because of the squared term in this one, as our numbers get smaller, our squared value doesn't necessarily get smaller, right? This negative 19 squared is actually going to give us a bigger result than negative 12 squared did. So sometimes you may have to go through and literally test every single one of these, and it's going to be a time-consuming process. Sometimes you can bring a little bit more logic to it. Great job. Hey, really quickly, since we do have a minute on this one, I'll show you how to solve this thing algebraically. So we divide this first side by 3, and we get P is less than 17. We divide the other one by 5, we get P is greater than 15. And there's only one value less than 17, but greater than 15. And it's got to be B. That make sense, Nikki? Yeah, no problem. Yep. Cool. All right, then let me turn you loose on that other problem that you guys did earlier. Again, many of you did get this one right, or you didn't get it at all. So take a shot at it this time with the back solving method, and let's see if we can get a few more right answers up on the board here. So I'm going to give you a little bit longer with this one. I will give you actually 3:30, because I want to make sure that everybody has time to try out this method. And if you do think you got it right the first time, please do still try out this method, and let's see if this one works for you more efficiently. When you have the answer, please pull it in. All right, I am going to go ahead and set the chat back to public. So if you were talking to me in one of the private chats, please come on back to the main room here. I love it. I'm just looking at like a sea of correct answers here. Not the answers C, but I mean like an ocean of correct answers. Poorly chosen words there. Strong work. Hey, by the way, if you're thinking about this problem in terms of back solving, which one of the answer choices can you look at right away and go, well, that's not going to work? Yup. Rule number one, guys, no dividing by zero. We can kick that one out of there. Literally, if you did nothing else but do that, you have already made your chances of guessing right on this problem jump from 1 out of 5 to 1 out of 4. You've already gone from 20% chance of guessing right to 25% chance of guessing right. Fantastic. What's another one that you could rule out easily if you were picking numbers? There's one other one that I look at and I will go, well, that can't be right. Yeah, let's get rid of those negatives as well, especially B. Especially B. That's an easy one to plug in here because if we plug in -1, that becomes equal to 0. 0 plus 1 is 1. 3 divided by 1 is 3, and that clearly doesn't work. Absolutely. The 2's give us some weird fractions. Definitely that's not the case either. We can rule them out, and some testing definitely verifies that. Well, look at that. Even without really doing the math, we've already ruled out every answer choice except one. Let's test it just to see what happens. If we go ahead and plug 1 in here, we're going to have 2 over 1 plus 1. That whole thing is going to be equal to 3. And sure enough, 3 over 3 equals 1. Only one answer choice checks out here, and it's got to be answer choice D. Got to be. Strong work. A lot of right answers on that one. I love to see everybody getting that one right so easily. Give me a quick +1 in the chat if you are on board and if you're feeling comfortable with the strategy. Fantastic. I love to see that. Tons of +1s, tons of smiley faces there too. I'm really stoked to see that this one's really resonated with you all. One thing I would recommend is, if you haven't done so yet, hit up the YouTube channel, check out the Manhattan Prep channel there, and take a look at the videos that I did about picking for Vic and cheating off of B. And come back in a couple weeks because I want to do another one of these prep hours. What I think I want to do is a Scrappy Strategy roundup. So I'm going to do a couple problems from each one of those 3 families and just work on people's ability to apply those strategies. Strong work, guys. Really, really great job. Really quickly before I let some folks get out of here, and I do actually have one more problem. I have one bonus problem if anybody wants to stick around. I just wanted to call out the fact that someone had asked me about other classes that I teach personally. I work with usually a full 8-session course where we go into both the content that you're going to face on the GRE, but also a lot of strategy work, like what we were doing here tonight. If you're interested in learning more about some of our classes, you can check us out at manhattanprep.com/GRE/classes. If you're interested in working with me personally, I have a class that's going to be forming coming up here at the end of July. It's an online class, and I'd be more than happy to work with any one of you, so feel free to check that out. All right, gang. Well, hey, I hope that this really helped. Like I said, I love watching people beat this test, and I hope that you all are able to. I hope I was able to get you some points here this evening. Best of luck with all your studying, and take care.